Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Game Changer Podcast. I am your host, NateFNGreat. Let me try talking in English this time around. We are celebrating 5 years of podcasting for myself, and honestly, guys, it's been absolutely amazing because of the fact that first guest was Dusty Dave, who I've honestly loved and enjoyed talking with. Definitely check out that interview. I'm very honored that my second guest here is somebody who I've had the chance to talk to quite a few times on many different podcasting deals. Former person who worked with What Culture. She did a lot of stuff when it came to wrestling overseas. And honestly, I'm very happy to say that after about a year of just talking about it, we're finally doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Suzie Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen.
Woohoo! Yay! Cheers! Claps! Round of applause! Hi!
Hello. How are you?
I'm very socially distanced at the moment. But, yeah. On the whole, I'm okay, yes.
There were so many tweets that you mentioned about this whole ordeal that I'm just thinking to myself, man, this poor girl, she had such high hopes for 2020, and one virus, one person decided to get sick, and now it's affecting everyone, sadly.
Yeah, you've kind of put my feelings into a nutshell there. This is meant to be my big sort of... I had a really, really tough 2019, and 2020 was definitely going to be the year. I'm back at university, doing my master's degree, very happy, literally a few months in, and now I'm stuck at learning at home. So yeah, this year's not quite gone to plan at the moment. Same for everybody. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. Everybody's sort of big life plans have had to be put on hold. I've had to put a lot of my big life plans on hold as well. However, it has also made a number of my life plans actually move forward slightly, which will all be revealed soon. There's going to be like a gradual sort of release of information. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a little while, and it's sort of just expanded on my own Twitter community and trying to figure out other ways of interacting with them and those people being able to interact with each other. So that'll be a wee scoop that you'll be getting at some point in the very near future.
All right, very cool, very cool. So you mentioned that you were getting your master's degree. What is the degree in?
Yes, my master's degree, as I shove up a metaphorical pair of glasses on my nose, it's a master's in marketing, and I'm studying at Glasgow Caledonian University, and I'm very proud at the fact that I'm also a scholarship student there. So that was quite it was an achievement for me to get accepted, but then also to be accepted for a scholarship as well was quite amazing, and I was very, very proud of myself, and everybody else was very proud of me as well, not just me. That sounded really conceited, but no, everybody else was very proud. So yeah, it's a very big achievement that I'm very happy that I chose to do.
Yeah, in all honesty, you can feel free to pat yourself on the back as much as you want, because there's a lot of people that are not as committed to get a master's degree. Some people just prefer to get like a certificate or an associate's degree or something like that. But a master's degree, that takes a lot of time and commitment just to get to that level. So definitely very happy for you, very proud of you, and congratulations when you have that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're so right in what you said. It is a lot of commitment, but also we're sort of in an environment at the moment where more is more. I'm really lucky in the work experience and the experiences that I have, but I definitely felt I wasn't done with education, and I think me going back to education was half selfish, half productive to help me move myself forward in my career at the same time. But I definitely, when I finished my honours degree, I very much felt like I wasn't done. And it took me a couple of years to get back to that point where I was just 100% ready to throw myself back into education and be in that environment again. And I think actually more people think a lot of people think that master's degrees are unobtainable to them, which is something that I maybe thought a couple of years ago, but I think when you get to your honours degree, you do see that as less of a massive goal. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of people out there that do think it's a really huge goal and it is unattainable for them. But for anybody who's ever wanted to go back into education, 100% would tell them to go for it and just throw themselves in and do it. And if they were able to like financially support themselves or continue to work while doing a master's, if you've always wanted to do it, just do it, because if you've got experience, you'll probably get into like wherever it is, whatever university or institution it is that you want to do. So that's kind of like my advice.
I was about to say, hey, fair enough. I mean, honestly, it does take a lot of commitment and determination to get to that role, but you're definitely one of those shining examples that, hard work and commitment can definitely pay off in the long run.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears, literally.
So, when you do get your master's degree in marketing, is there a specific job that you're hoping to obtain, or is it just one of those things where you kind of just want this degree just to kind of have this degree?
I don't know right now. And this is what's very different to when I was doing my undergraduate. Because when I was doing my undergraduate, I kind of had a set path. I knew sort of where I was heading and sort of what roles I was able to achieve. Whereas now I'm sort of in this weird pre-turning 30 limbo land where I'm not really 100% sure what direction I'm going to go in at the end of this. I'm hoping it is still going to be in some sort of sporting direction, but if it's not, and it's maybe in some other sort of role, maybe in media or still in digital marketing, which is what I specialise in, I'll be happy as long as I see as me taking a step forward and moving up the ladder, let's say. Then I'll be happy and I'll feel like I've achieved something. But I do have some big goals this year, and I've got big goals in terms of what I want to do for my thesis as well. I feel I want to do some really beneficial research, but it will be within the sports realm. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't really know exactly where I'm going, but I have a rough trail.
Well, hey, it's going to be one of those things where it may be tough, but at least you got a really good support system that's going to be with you all the way. Because if Susie's happy, everyone's happy. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think my family would probably say the same thing as well.
So, one thing that you mentioned earlier on was that 2019 was kind of a bit of a rough year for you. And honestly, especially if you're in the world of professional wrestling, there were a lot of people that could definitely say, we had a rough year because, this was going on and all these people are winning and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But for you, I think that it definitely does stand out that it was probably for different reasons. Were there any key points that made 2019 a little bit rough for you last year?
Yeah, I sort of was losing, I think I was losing a little bit sight in sort of my direction. Obviously, many people know that I don't actually work in wrestling anymore. I moved on from that and went into sort of more corporate, normal job life, let's say. But I very much still kept my finger on the pulse with what's been going on, and was sort of transitioning into being, I would say, my authentic self in terms of my likes and what I'm interested in, and where my real passions are, because even though wrestling's always been a passion of mine since I was a young age, it wasn't my only passion. And for me, I think my online presence became this, it was so absorbed in wrestling and everything to do with wrestling, there wasn't really a lot of room to actually show me. And I was feeling very stifled by that, and that was sort of something at the beginning of the year I kind of sort of had to battle with. And I think, you will probably notice, because obviously you interact with me on Twitter, there's been a sort of transition of being just maybe predominantly wrestling audiences into audiences from different sports, and also me talking about different sports and different content, especially college football, NFL, and majority Formula One, and motorsport in general, because that really is my number one passion, and that has been my passion my whole life, and there's a whole story to that. So that was like the sort of first hurdle of 2019 that I sort of had to go through. I had some medical struggles. I was diagnosed with IBS, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, that means it's irritable bowel syndrome. And that really did take a massive effect on my mental health as well as my physical health, to the point where my sociable here literally didn't want to go out the door or leave the house at points. So that was quite a scary thing. And then unfortunately we had some ill health in the family, and a couple of deaths occurred, which were quite heartbreaking. So it was like, and then obviously having to piece myself back together from that was a journey. I actually started therapy, which was something I've not done in a very long time. And actually it was the best thing that I think I could have done for myself. I've learned so much about myself. I've really gained new skills on how to deal with sort of mental health issues that I'd been struggling with for a long time, because mental health for me is not a new thing. It's been something that I've dealt with since I was a teenager. And it was nice to be able to put myself back together, but put myself back together in a way that's going to help me progress and sort of leave this sort of bad stuff of last year in the past and be able to move forward. And like anything with mental health, you have your ups and downs, you have your bad days and your good days. But I'm definitely now on the sort of other end of that, and I've been able to focus a lot more. Going back to uni was a big part of that. Big hurdle of that was leaving my job and saying goodbye to my old colleagues, which was very sad. But it's been lots of changes, lots of really positive things happened at the sort of end of 2019 going into 2020. So overall I'm in a good place at the moment.
And that's what really matters, matters the most. And honestly, I wish I could say that it only got better from there, but then we had this whole coronavirus deal, and that just was like, well, this was not how we planned our 2020. Of course not.
No.
We were kind of hoping that it would be, bigger, better things. And that's always the thing about the year-end deals. Like, okay, this year might have been tough, but at least next year is going to be better. And it could have not started off any worse than this. But I do want to ask about this, because you did hit the nail on the head that I'm one of those people that definitely do notice that your social media deal has definitely changed a bit from professional wrestling to other sports. And I will say that you're definitely very passionate when it comes to a lot of the other sports that you mentioned, college football and everything like that. And it's really kind of interesting to see that, because this is not something I would expect from her. And now that you mentioned this story, it's like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Because, yeah, you're right. When it comes to wrestling, they only see you as a certain character in wrestling unless you're able to, progress into something else. Otherwise, you're stuck with that rep for quite a while. And I'm sure you didn't like to be known as just the girl that was in What Culture for the blink of an eye, I'm sure.
Yeah, I definitely got to the point where I was feeling really restricted, and that's never a feeling that I've ever dealt with very well. And I really did want to spread my wings and just be myself again, even though I was being myself while talking about wrestling. But I felt that if I shared something else about something else I was passionate about or interested in, I felt like that was going to take away from the other content that might have been more interesting to my followers. So that was what I was thinking about a lot, because a lot of the people who followed me when I was at What Culture didn't know who I was before that point, and didn't know about my background and my interest in other sports, and that sort of diminished over time as obviously the popularity within wrestling sort of carried on. And it was definitely but it got to the point where I wasn't enjoying wrestling anymore myself, because I felt I was forced to talk about it just to keep a follower. And I got to the point I just decided, do you know what, fuck it, me is more important, and my sort of well-being and what I want to talk about is more important than keeping a couple of followers. So I started integrating little bits, and I'm not going going to sit here and brag or say, oh, all the followers I have. I must have lost about 5,000-6,000 followers in the transition from maybe 2.5 years ago to about now. Now that's quite a substantial amount of people. I don't know if it's like they just don't like me, they just don't like my content anymore because I'm not talking about wrestling as much, and they're maybe not interested in other sports, which is absolutely fine. And to anybody who unfollowed me, it's not a big deal. But I'm gaining followers from other genres of sport, that is the thing that I'm really happy about, is that I can share my viewpoints with other people who are not just within the wrestling community but are now in other communities, motor racing, college football, basketball sometimes, just any, because I just love all sport, always have. I've been such a tomboy my whole life, and then especially recently within the sort of esports community, which is something I'm very, very invested in. I always have been, but I've never been very vocal about it until recently, and it got to the point where I says, no, I need to speak up more about this because it's a community that really needs that support and to really be exposed to new audiences, because it's within this really sort of bubble of growth at the moment, especially with everything that's going on with the coronavirus and all the sports that have had to stop, especially within motorsport. There's been a lot of the esports companies and teams that have really, really rallied round, no pun intended, rallied round, have rallied round the motorsport community and the fans to get everybody involved in online activities. So there's, for instance, We Are The Race. You can find them on Twitter as well. They've actually had a race on today. It started at 5 o'clock UK time, and featuring Formula 1 drivers, NASCAR drivers, IndyCar drivers, Formula E drivers, but also esports simulator drivers as well. So it's very much mixing the two worlds together of esports and regular motorsport and smashing them together and putting them online for everybody to see, and seeing just basically what happens, what will happen. And also Veloce Sports, they did a race in partnership with Formula 1 last weekend, and it was a huge success. The amount of impressions they got online was astronomical. The views that they had was the highest views that they've ever had. The news articles alone that they had, like BBC were covering it, Telegraph, not the Telegraph, the Guardian, sorry, lots of news outlets online really got behind it. They also actually they didn't just have drivers and some drivers, they also had the Real Madrid goalkeeper. He actually took part in it as well. Tomorrow they actually have Ian Poulter, the golfer, who's taking part tomorrow, as well as lots of other famous faces and faces from sport are getting involved. And those races will be happening every sort of what would be the quintessential race weekend. Also this weekend, Formula 1 itself actually announced that they were going to do a virtual race series, suggesting that all the drivers are involved. Not 100% sure whether that's accurate, right? But they will also be including a lot of the sim drivers as well, which is really good. So they're really thriving at the moment because all the sports sort of shut down. So people are really gravitating online and getting involved in esports and watching Twitch streams and watching YouTube streams, which is really amazing to see, and that's also why I feel it's important for me to talk about it and share about it, because it's some great action. And if no one's ever watched esports in a motorsport context, please do it. There's lots of content out there, especially on iRacing, Twitch, YouTube. Go check those out. You will be thoroughly impressed.
So, first of all, I definitely want to backtrack a little bit to one of your comments when you were saying to all the people that unfollowed me, I honestly thought that we were going to get like a one-time resurrection of Suzie Kennedy, the manager, just cutting like a promo on them. That's where I thought you were going, but no, you definitely...
No, she's dead and gone. That's like Suzie version 1.3. We're on like Suzie like 2.5 right now.
Holy cow. Oh man, so it's almost like a lot of the phone companies where they have like the next gen already coming out. This is the next generation.
Yeah, I've just been going through various software updates in the past couple of years.
Oh man, I mean, if we were going to go into technology, we definitely would have to mention how long it took for us to finally get technology to work with us to get this thing going. Because I'm going to say this, guys, before we even got started, we were trying so hard to get like microphones and everything all set up. And for the longest time, nothing seemed to work. So for those that think that setting up technology is easy, you're going to be in the house for like the next, half month, something like that. Try the fastest you can to set up some kind of technology and just brag about how easy it is to set stuff up, because it is not easy. Over 5 years of doing this, some parts are pretty easy. Then there's other parts that's like, maybe if I hook this up to this, nope, it sounds worse. Okay, what if we did this? Nope, this sounds even worse. Okay, then. Technology just will work with you sometimes, and then other times it'll just decide, you know what? Nope, not happening today.
Yeah, unfortunately I was having some compatibility issues. But we figured it out. I basically went and bought 2 microphones because I knew that I'd be doing a lot more podcast content since I'm going to be home for the next 12 weeks. Saying it like that is quite terrifying to think that that's how long I'm going to be seeing my house or the supermarket for. But I actually live with a vulnerable person, so part of the British government, their government recommendations are for vulnerable people to do a thing called social distancing for 12 weeks, which basically means that nobody but myself and carers for my mum are allowed to come into the house. So my mum literally doesn't have any visitors allowed to come in for 12 weeks, which is such a long time, but it is for the benefit of her health and to make sure that she's not exposed to the virus. And to anybody listening, please stay at home if you can. I know in the UK especially, we have a thing called key workers, and at the moment from Monday those should be the only people that are working, and they're wanting everybody else to be working from home. I know that America's got a slightly different system, but I know that a lot of employers are encouraging people to work at home, and which is great. It's a very challenging thing working from home, even for students to work at home, which I am experiencing at the moment. But seriously, please stay at home, because if you stay at home, you could be potentially saving a vulnerable person's life. So I would very much appreciate it. If anyone in Scotland's listening to it, I would appreciate it. My mum would really appreciate it, because you potentially could save many lives by staying at home.
And the woman said please at least 20 times, so you have to at least enlighten the idea. You have to at least listen just a little bit. I mean, I'm not even living in the UK, and I'm even just like, you know what, maybe I'm just going to stay home. Why? Because Suzie said please like 20 times, and I'm just that kind of person. I just like to, when somebody says please, it's like, it's like my bread and butter. Okay, I'm in for that. But no, you are right. There are different deals that are happening here in the United States. They did close down a lot of stuff. I think the only things that are open right now are certain gas stations, as well as supermarkets, grocery stores. Those are still going to be going, and there's still people roaming about. But as a lot of the like restaurants, bars, diners, that stuff has been closed for quite a while. I just started working with a new job at Sprint, and they decided to close down because, well, we didn't have the sadly the amount of people that needed to keep it open, but also because of the fact of this coronavirus definitely affected that as well. So I definitely do agree with you. With me doing this training at home, it is very hard to keep focus on this, but then again, I'm kind of also easily amused by other things, so it's like I could be watching this video, but I could also be watching TV, or I could also be playing something on my phone, or I could be doing something like this. It's very easy to get distracted when you're at home.
You're a procrastinator.
Thank you. You've heard it here first by Suzie Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen. NateFNGreat is a procrastinator.
I'm 100% a procrastinator as well.
And that's why we're friends.
I very much struggle with that. I have a little bit of ADHD inside me. I do get distracted quite easily, which is tough when you're trying to do work. But the thing is, though, there is so much like good content online sometimes, especially now as I'm talking about esports and Twitch and.
I thought you were going to be talking about like the random videos that people have just been making or photos. One of the people that I've been following on Twitter, she literally just keeps retweeting her same tweet over and over again, which is just her in like a Lucha Libre mask, and she actually asks the questions like, how many times before people get annoyed at me retweeting the same thing over and over again? And I just said, I'm not at that point yet, so you're good.
Oh, that's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of those things where, yes, it's a bit of a burden to have this coronavirus, but it also can be a blessing, because for those that have been complaining about, not getting the chance to see family, to see friends, stuff like that, now they got that chance to, just relax for a little bit, stay safe, stay healthy, get a chance to interact with people again. Yes, I know it's going to be online, and I'm pretty sure once this whole deal is over, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, oh, we got to burn this fat, we got to do all this kind of stuff just to go back to the gym. For me, in the long run, I am thankful that I get the chance to, spend some time with my family. My father's working at home right now, and so far things have been going well for him, so that's good.
That's good.
I have a cousin who's living with us here too, so get a chance to interact with him every now and then as well. Get a little bit of a bond, because otherwise we would just be working out at the gym for a couple of hours, and that's roughly about it. So I don't know. I see this kind of more as a blessing, but I also believe in the fact that, this thing is trying to stop us, but life goes on. Don't let it, hold you back, and don't let it just be one of those things where you just feel pressed like, oh, my life is over. It's like, no, it's not. There's still plenty of things to do. Like Suzie was saying, there's a lot of great content from people like gamers, from sports leagues. There's a lot of good stuff that you can, still be watching, still enjoying. If that doesn't work for you, read a book, get a game or something like that. Get like a board game out or something like that. Just not Monopoly, because that's like the easy one to make people very unhappy with. And
also, if I can just interject in terms of that as well, there is like so many online courses. If you ever wanted to learn something, now's probably the chance that you could actually take to do that as well. Go do an online course. Just because you can't study somewhere else doesn't mean you can't study at home or learn something new.
No, I definitely do agree with that. I know that one of my YouTube subscriptions is to a thing called Howcast, and a lot of times they will send these notifications saying, how do you learn this phrase in Spanish or in Greek or something like that. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe I'll learn just to at least say this phrase. I probably won't learn the whole language, but if I can know like specific phrases, maybe there'll be something interesting that comes out of it. I have my doubts, but who knows at this point. So one of the things that you did mention was that you did mention that a bit of your mental health, and you did mention that you were kind of still struggling with that. Are there some days where you're struggling with more than like any other days, or what do you find like the biggest battle going on when it comes to your mental health right now?
Well, my main sort of thing over the past year was anxiety.
Oh boy.
Once I started my therapy, it actually came down to PTSD, which was something I never thought would be something that I would ever experience, but it's linked to sort of any sort of trauma that you've gone through. So basically it was when there was bereavements in the family, it sort of triggered things from the past, and it was a lot of the things came unconsciously, and that came out in me in anxiety. I wouldn't necessarily say that my depression has been bad. It's not been bad my depression has definitely not been bad for about 4 years. I would say that's the last spell, but the anxiety is a completely different, it's a different monster. There's a lot of people who suffer from both, and in myself I can definitely see the differentiation between when I'm feeling depressed and when it's anxiety. Your body goes through different feelings and emotions. Anxiety for me is I get uncontrollable shakes, I feel nervous, my heart races very fast. You constantly feel like you want to fight, and one of the things that I learned was about the whole fight or flight mode.
I got you.
That's easy for me to say, within your body and how you react. And basically, a lot of people who suffer from anxiety is that fight or flight mode kicks in, but then you can't switch it off, and then it causes a lot of adverse reactions within your body. And anxiety was also triggering my IBS as well, so I was sort of in like a vicious cycle of brain triggering body and bodies triggering brain. So that was something that I had to learn to break. And I'm glad that I was able to really take the therapy seriously and learn new tricks. And looking back, because many people have asked me, oh, how did you know that it was working? And it just does one day, it just clicks. And then, but you don't know how. It just, everything just changes. And I almost feel like I have amnesia at times. Because people say, oh, but how did you break the cycle? I just followed the things that my therapist told me to do, and then just seem to just dissipate over time. But you don't see the line. You don't just have terrible anxiety one day and then the next day, oh, I'm better. It is a slow progress, but because it is a slow progress, you don't really necessarily see where the line is that things started to obviously get better, which is a good thing, because that means your brain's decompartmentalising things and working through things. But I do still struggle with it. I would definitely say that the past couple of weeks have been challenging. I've had a couple of wobbles with this whole COVID-19 thing. I think a lot of it's down to I don't deal well with change, so changes in my routine can sometimes trigger things. Stress is also a big thing that triggers things for me as well. So I'd actually had a bit of a rough morning. I was feeling quite full of anxiety today. But I try to listen to my mind, listen to my body, to the sort of techniques that my therapist had spoken to me about trying to be in the present, being in the moment, trying not to let my brain catastrophize and start thinking about all the really terrible things that could happen, and then eventually you do sort of ground yourself again and like it switches off. So I'm in a really, really good place tonight. So it's constant management, but I'm so glad I'm at a point now where I can talk about it now and feel as if it's a weight off my shoulders. But I do know obviously that it still needs to be. It's a daily battle. You've got to still work at it, because if you get complacent and you stop working on your mental health, then that's when things start to come back again, and you're at the risk of really having a big sort of setback. And life's for living, and you don't want to waste time, and that's why I feel I'm always trying to keep on top of things now and seeing the signs, because I don't want to waste any minutes now, because I feel I wasted so much. That's terrible saying I wasted so much of my time last year, because I couldn't help what happened. But it's still time that I could have used doing other things, and I definitely love to live my life. So for me, last year was very strange and very out of the ordinary, but it was a learning experience, and it'll make me a better person. And I've come out the other side stronger and more determined as well. And yeah, I think that might answer your question.
Yeah, I think that as somebody who also went through depression as well, I do agree with you that it's one of those things where depression is an ongoing battle. Some people might say, like, oh, I'm cured from my depression. I don't feel it anymore.
No.
You're
never cured.
No. It's never cured. It's always a consistent battle. Any day that you have where nothing went wrong in your mind and everything went by well, that's a victory. You got to focus on those victories more on the losses, because those positive things, one thing I've learned is that you make a list of all the positive things in your life and all the negative things, and those positive things are almost like a novelty book, like something that is written by Chris Jericho or Hornswoggle or something like that. It's literally that much. And when you compare it to the negative stuff, it could be like maybe 3 or 4 Post-it notes of negative things that have happened. So definitely focus more on the positives, and do not be afraid to ask for help, to ask for support, because that's why your friends are there. They are here to show you love, to show you support, and to tell you, hey, you're not doing this alone, and you'll never be alone. And that's one thing that I've learned over the years when it comes to battling depression, is that I'm not alone doing this, and I definitely do appreciate that. And I'll tell you the same thing, Susie. You're not alone when it comes to this depression. If ever you need somebody to talk to, hey, you know how to hit me up. You know how to talk to me. And I always enjoy talking to you, whether you fell out of wrestling or not. I'm still one of those people that enjoy seeing, how far you've come since then. Because first time seeing you, I think I mentioned this before. It was one of those things where I think you were one of the first few on YouTube where it was like, oh wow, hey, a girl who likes wrestling. This is kind of cool. So I think that's one of those things where I think more women start looking at that and thinking, if she can kind of do this, maybe I can kind of express my stuff. And there's a lot of women out there in the wrestling world that have definitely been very vocal about wrestling and stuff like that. But also, I love the fact that you're willing to say, hey, life is not all about wrestling. It's about living life to the fullest. And I definitely do appreciate and respect that. You want to kind of think, okay, there's other things that I love. I want to focus more on that. And, it's never fun watching wrestling when you get to a point where it's like, oh, this feels like a job now. This feels like we're procrastinating. There reached a point where some of the wrestling shows, I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. I'm just not. I feel like nothing. I don't feel the same way as I did before, where I would just watch a show and be like, oh man, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. There's some people that still have that mentality. Good for them. For me, I'm just not one of them. So very happy to see that you're doing so much better, and to see that you're just enjoying life. That's one of the things that I definitely appreciate and really respect when it comes to you, is that you're changing your, you may be changing, what your interests are. You may be changing what direction that you want to do with your content. But I'm all for it. It's one of those things where after, getting the chance to see you as like the character on What Culture, it's like, okay, I kind of want to know the person behind the character. And I think that, a lot of these podcasts that I've done with you, it's like, she's awesome. She's one of those people I definitely do admire and respect, because I got the chance to see the layers of Suzie Kennedy. I got to see, Suzie Kennedy 1.2, and now I get to see Suzie Kennedy 2.5 right now, or whatever number we're at.
More software updates are coming.
So we might have like a Suzie 5.0 by the time 2020 is over.
You never know. I mean, it's like the Apple updates. They're coming every other week. I really appreciate what you've said, and I totally agree with your points. It's a strange thing, because I think sometimes when you do enter the world of wrestling, you end up getting put in that box of wrestling. And I think a lot of people don't realise that these are people who have other interests and other likes, and have people around them that have different interests, and they're not just a one-dimensional person, and I'm quite lucky. The people who have stuck around with me, who sort of from the wrestling, I've still got a lot of my wrestling friends. Some people have sort of fallen by the wayside, which is fine. That happens. People are doing their own thing. I don't have any animosity or anything to anybody. You just lose touch with people sometimes, and people are just living their lives and going down different paths, and it's fine, and everybody's in a good place. I have my friends from wrestling that are still really close to me. I've got a really small group that I'm still really close with, and those are my people, and that's it. I'm not really eager to being friends with people who don't want to be my friend now. I think that's something that I learned as well. Is I'm always been a people pleaser, and one of the things that I noticed when I did take a step back from wrestling, you do see a lot of people drop off, and people who you thought were your friends, well, no, they weren't. They were not true friends, and I'm glad to see that the true friends have sort of stuck around, and you really see that, and I'm definitely more appreciative of those people that have stuck around, and they get all my time and effort, and they get the best parts of me. I still do put the best parts of me out for everybody else, and I'll always still be kind and generous and like the same lovable, huggy person that I'm still that person. I'm just a bit more, I would say, guarded, and I think that's you do. It's only a natural thing for that to happen when you go through something like that, where you have sort of people who just kind of drop away. You do start to kind of doubt yourself, and then you go, no, wait a minute, this isn't really anything to do with me as such. It's and then you sort of guard yourself from it in the future. But that sort of period of transition sort of taught me a lot. But like I say, I don't have a bad bone in my body to. I very much have grown up in that sort of sense, that whereas I might have in the past when I was a bit younger maybe have been slightly more hot-headed and maybe chastised people a bit more.
Oh, really?
Whereas now I just water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
It's not. I like being happy. I don't like being angry. Fair enough, if you really piss me off, I'm still going to be mad. But I might not be as fire and brimstone as maybe what I would used to have been. I'm definitely I'm making myself out to be really hard here. I'm not. I'm really, really soft and gentle. It's just the odd occasion I would get a bit fired up about certain things, but I'm a gentle person. But yeah, like it's. I think a lot of it is down to the fact that I'm a lot happier in myself, and I think that is if you're happy within yourself, it's really hard to be angry at other things or other people.
No, I definitely do agree, and I'm going to say this right now, that the more you said that, I was thinking to myself, oh boy, I think Suzie 1.2 is trying to make a comeback. It's trying to crawl out of the trash bin, and you're like, nope, get back in there right now. We don't need this old software. We don't need this. No. But I can definitely attest to that. You have always been one of the nicest people that I have gotten the chance to interact with, whether it's online, whether it's, through the emails that we talk. I can tell you this right now, there's not been a single time where she said, it's like I don't want to talk to you, leave me alone, blah, 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 just being, like vicious or toxic, as a lot of people have been over the years, especially on social media. And that was actually going to be my next question I was going to ask you, because I know on the wrestling side, there is just so much toxicity, especially if you even try to make one joke about something, people are just going to jump on you for that. Do you feel that same kind of, toxicity with a lot of the other sports that you might cover, whether it's college football or anything else like that?
Interesting question, but from my experience, I would probably say no. There is a level of toxicity in all sports, especially within fan bases, I would say. And And I think if there's always an element of competition, there's always going to be some sort of negativity floating about somewhere. There's always something for somebody to have a grouch about. I would say that it's a strange one, because that word toxic is such a heavy word, and I know that sort of word, like the toxicity is like sort of, it is thrown around a lot in wrestling, and I would actually replace that and say that sometimes it's an unhealthy environment. I wouldn't say that it's toxic.
Okay.
Because if something's unhealthy, it can be, it can evolve and change and become better. Whereas I think saying something's toxic, it's sort of saying that there's no going back. And I definitely see a lot of love in the wrestling community, and I definitely 100% see that the good outweighs any of the unhealthy behaviours or anything on the whole. But it's just unfortunate that we live in a day and age at the moment where all of the negativity and the like unhealthy side that gets pushed right to the forefront when there's so much good happening that nobody wants to talk about that. But if something bad happens, let's jump on that, and everybody's going to be angry and everybody's going to have something to say, and everybody wants to talk about the bad stuff, but the good stuff, all this good stuff, positive things that are happening, then kind of get shoved to the side. And I think that's definitely sort of a universal thing within sport. But however, I would say in terms of maybe the gap between the two, I would say it's a lot closer together in other sports than it is in wrestling. Wrestling, there is really like a clear divide of like unhealthy and the good. And I just wish a lot more of the positive stuff would come forward. But you do see a lot of wrestlers that they do share a lot of the positive stuff now. As I felt, especially when I was sort of in what culture, like wrestling was in a sort of weird phase where there was a lot of negativity, and especially when I left what culture, there was obviously a lot of things. I'm not going to go into details or mention anything about any sort of like bad press or things like that sort of happened, but there was sort of like a range of things that sort of panned out on social media, and it just seemed to be one negative thing after another, and it just didn't put wrestling in a good light for a lot of people for a little while. But that's all changed, and I definitely see that wrestling social media has become a more positive place, and I'm really happy to see that. And there seems to be like a change in sort of sports culture, that things are turning into more positivity. From my perspective, and I'm just saying from the things that I see online, other people might have difference of opinion to that, and I totally appreciate that. We all see different things on social media because the algorithms give us different things that we want to see and only show us what we want to see, so it's a lot harder to find other things that are maybe in the realm of what's going on. But I definitely think that that things are moving in a positive direction. I just hope that other sort of things on social media, in terms of like culture, politics, will move in a sort of more healthier direction as well. But community is very important in wrestling. Community is very important in motorsport. Community is very important in esports. I would say that there's a smaller gap in the which the irony of this, which I've sort of noticed, there seems to be now a smaller gap between Formula One as like an institution and the fans or community, whatever word you want to use. There seems to be less of a gap, whereas I feel in wrestling at the moment there seems to be a bigger gap creating in terms of community and the institutions within wrestling. That seems to be becoming a little bit disjointed again, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I think that will evolve again. But then again, I don't know if that degree of separation to a certain extent is actually good. Because that might be a key element of why a lot of the negativity is subdued.
Jeez Louise. You're definitely a college girl if you're using the phrases subdued, algorithms, community, stuff like that. So, wow. I mean, that was a lot to take in, but in all honesty, I get where you were coming from. And it will probably take a bit of time before we get to that point where, everybody can respect each other's opinion, but we'll see. We'll see. I just really would like for people just to at least, if somebody makes a phrase like, here in America where it's like if somebody has a favorite NFL team where it's like, we think that, the Atlanta Falcons are the best team of all time. Instead of people just, pile driving onto them, just saying all this stuff. Hopefully it'll get better from there, but no, we'll just have to.
And then some guy's like, fuck you! Fuck the Atlanta Falcons. It's the same, it's the same here. I live in Glasgow, case in point, Rangers and Celtic. I mean, it boggles my mind in terms of how people interact with one another in that level when it comes to those two teams. There's something within it that brings out this visceral just hatred. But you don't know each other. You're two different people fighting over a ball in a football field. I mean, it's fantastic. Sport brings people together, and this is the thing. I love sport. I love community. I love everything about the two together. But, however, there are cases where it brings out the worst in people, and you'll get people who will literally not speak to somebody if they support one team over another. Oh, I don't want anything to do with you because you support X. Oh, you must be this type of person if you support this team. It's insane. And the fact that these people genuinely believe this as well, and it's quite a hard concept for me to get my head around. Still. But like I said, when I was younger, and especially when I was into soccer here, when I was younger, I was very much oh yeah, go this team, yeah, like, oh, boo, like, just really, like, oh, you support that team, oh, like, don't talk to me, and that sort of stuff. But you learn, you grow as a person, you grow up, you become an adult, you have more common sense, hopefully, and then, but you do see a lot of it, and it's a lot of time it's grown adults, and you're just like, what are you doing? You're embarrassing yourself.
No, you're definitely not wrong. I've seen that situation at wrestling events too. It's amazing. It's like, okay, you're like probably like 5 years older than me, maybe 7, something like that, and you're acting like this. Yeah, learn to grow up and maybe change your adult diapers. Okay, maybe that's a little low for me, but whatever.
It's like, be loyal and be passionate and have fire when you're supporting people. And I think with wrestling as well, it's one of those things, there is so much theatre to it and dramatics that people do get riled up and get really into it. And I think sometimes fans might react in different ways than what they would do in sort of normal life. And she's probably going to kill me for saying this, but so my friend Felicia, who I've been to a number of wrestling events with, is for me the most entertaining person that you could have at a wrestling show ever. And she's very much involved in wrestling herself. She's a manager, Felicia Rose, look her up if you don't know who she is. So shout out my international bestie. And she's very much, I've never been to a wrestling show, and she actually brings things out of me that I don't think I would ever say. And the things she says are amazing. She's complete comedy as well. She's hysterical. Some of the things that she comes out and says, and I'm just like, where did that come from? Where in your brain did you think that up to say? And she's so funny, and I think she is a prime example of someone who's passionate, fun, over the top excited, but is not aggressive, disrespectful. If someone disrespects his heart, she'll come for you, but so would I if somebody disrespected me. But she's in that sort of realm of, she still has sensibility, and I think that's what a lot of fans don't have, is that switch to go, right, okay, I need to switch that off now.
No, I definitely hear where you're coming from. I've recently just started doing commentary for local wrestling group here in Wisconsin, and there's also a point where where I do like these running jokes with a lot of the wrestlers that are here. So I definitely do see where you're coming from. I've seen people literally get like worked up over something that's like so ridiculous. There was one point where like a championship match was the main event, and there were people getting in the owner's face about the decision to have this guy lose. And I think I was just like, calm down. This is not like the World Series or something like that. Unless you had like your fortune put on here, I would not get worked up about it. But
I mean, it's great that they're that passionate and they have an opinion, because I feel, and that's definitely, I would say, one of the sports. There's a category of, actually, all sports fans are very opinionated.
I agree with that.
Which is a good thing at times, but also can be really bad too. I'm going to put my hand up and say, yes, I am an opinionated sports fan. It's like, hello, my name is Suzie, and I'm an opinionated sports fan.
Opinionated Anonymous.
Sometimes my opinions are wrong, sometimes my opinions are controversial, but they do come from a place of logic and deep thought. However, there are some times when you see people, especially on social media, when you think, did you think about that before you put that on Twitter? Did you think about that before you posted that picture on Facebook? And that's when I say it's great to have opinionated sports fans, but you always got to think before you speak.
Yeah. Same thing can go over. Did you think before you decided to open your big mouth, or was that just one of those things where it's like, it's coming from the heart, that's all that matters? Yeah, sure. Well, we'll go with that, and we'll just say that. So I do have one question when it comes to just wrestling. I know that, mentioning that you're from Glasgow, you're a fellow Glasgowian. I don't know how to say this. One of your favorite fellow people from Scotland.
Glaswegian.
There we go. Thank you. I'm gonna okay, I'm gonna need you to send me just that, just so that I can get that and use that on this show as much as I can, because that way I can say like, hey, we're for all around, including the Glaswegians. But no, the question I had for you.
My name is Suzie, and I'm a Glaswegian.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh man, yeah. I definitely need the text for that, because I think I need to title this episode just Glaswegians on here.
Or just classes, hi, my name is
that
Suzie.
would be amazing.
People are going to be thinking, what does that mean?
What's funny, because one of my recent episodes, I literally had the Game Changer podcast presents Silence You Parasites, and it's all about it's all about talking about the most intellectual characters in wrestling. We talk about Sandow, Jericho, the Genius, people like that. And I'm just like, how do I even get that? Nope. We need to do that. We just need to put that in there. It's great. Gosh, what's the good? Oh, okay. One of your fellow Glasgowians, Drew McIntyre, who won the Royal Rumble, and he's going to fight Brock Lesnar for the WWE title at WrestleMania. I know that I was very happy to see that. Now I know you mentioned you're not too keen on not as heavily in depth or heavily involved in wrestling, stuff like that. But I definitely want to ask you, as a fellow native of Scotland, I'm just gonna say,
actually, Drew's not technically from Glasgow. He's technically from Ayr.
Really?
So that's different. He's from the West Coast, very on like at the sea.
Really?
He's like further out from where I am. But yeah, I am so excited for him. He deserves it so much. I really want him to win, and I think it is going to be one of these things. If he doesn't win, then my very opinionated sports person is going to come out.
It just starts off with I'm Suzie, I'm a Glaswegian, and then your input.
Suzie, I'm a Glaswegian, and I have something to say. But no, I will be very upset if he doesn't win, and also will the rest of Scotland be upset too. But no, I've worked with Drew multiple different occasions, and he just loves wrestling. He's been on such a journey as well, and it's a journey that a lot of other people maybe would not have expected him. I don't think a lot of people expected to see him back in the position that he is now, especially people who maybe didn't follow him as much on the independent scene and how bloody fantastic he was. And he really did. He blossomed. He grew. He became this person he became the person he was meant to be being back on the independent scene. He was around the people he needed to be around for him to be the best that he could be, and then for him to be secure in the person that he could be. And then when he went back to WWE, he just hit the ground running, and that was him. I think WWE needs him. They need somebody like him to take the title and run with it now, because this whole Brock Lesnar being around for 2 minutes every so often, and the fact that they seem to be doing this with the most important titles, I just don't get it. And I know there's probably a lot of explanation behind it, and it's people talk about it smart marketing. I don't really know if it is smart marketing, to be honest. And the fact that they're untouchable and they're so these sort of massive characters that they're untouchable, and I just know. And especially I think in this day and age, we need a champion that's relatable and someone who has a story of. And Drew's story is a story of heartache, redemption, hard work, dedication, and the world needs a champion like him right now.
No, I 100% agree.
Yeah, he just deserves it, and the world deserves it. The WWE universe deserve him as a champion.
No, I definitely do agree with that, and that's why I think that we need to take over WWE. I'll take over like the talent relations and all that kind of stuff. Triple H could be CEO, and then I'll just say, okay, for marketing, can we bring my friend Suzie in this, because she's got a master's degree in this, so she'll know what the people kind of want.
I think we're done now. I think we're done with the absent champions.
Yes.
Especially now, we need consistent faces. We need people who are going to be excited to see every week and actually want to see their faces, especially with what's going on in the world right now. We still want the pantomime. We still want to boo people and cheer people and have the love-hate, but we need dedicated people who are somewhat like obtainable and relatable.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. All right, so unfortunately we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen, but before we get into that, I would first like to say thank you, Suzie, for your time. Thank you so much for coming on here. I know that one of the first things that you said this past week, I think it was either this past week or it was last week, I remember you basically opening up the gate for me, basically saying, well, I'm going to be stuck here for quite a while. Anybody interested in doing podcasting, stuff like that? I don't know if I was the first one, but I feel like I was the first one that was just like, ooh, me. Just that one person, like, I'm that excited because I really wanted to talk to you again. And this was just an absolutely phenomenal interview. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing so much of your life that I think a lot of people are definitely going to take a lot out of this interview.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for having me, and I wish everybody listening the best, and I hope you're all staying safe. And remember, if you do have moments where you're struggling with your mental health during this difficult time, please talk to somebody. There's a whole world out there that's going to be your oyster once this is all over. So please look after yourself, and I'm sure I'll speak to all you lovely audience people again soon.
Definitely. So before we go, one of the things I like to do is to give the guests time to do plugs, whether they have social media, whether they have like events coming up. So Suzie, do you have anything that is coming up that people might be interested in knowing, as well as how can they interact with you?
Okay, so you can follow me on Twitter at Suzie Kennedy. Nate will actually tweet it out for me as well, because it's quite a hard handle to say because I put my middle initials in. I wish I'd never done that. So stupid. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can. It's at Suzie Sue, as in Susie in the Banshees. And if you keep an eye out on my Twitter page, I will be launching a Discord chat soon for all you sports fans to sort of talk to one another, build new community, interact with sort of I'm actually going to have like guests come on and answer questions too, so that's sort of a new platform that I'm looking to work with and see how I can sort of just take the ball and run with it on that. There is also going to be some Twitch content coming soon, basically just me being terrible at games. I'm thinking about actually naming the channel something Susie's bad at games or something, because I love gaming, but I'm not very good at it. So I think it would just be quite entertaining for people just to watch me be bad at games. And yeah, there's a bigger project coming that I can't actually talk about right now, but that will be launched at some point in 2020.
Alright, definitely looking forward to that. And guys, if you want to check me out on Twitter, go to @RealFNGame, and be sure to also check me out on Twitter at NateFNGreat, as well as check us out on this channel here, the Game Changer Podcast, talking about podcast, pop culture, wrestling, movies, whatever we can think about. Definitely getting more content out here this month. Also check out Wrestle Addict Radio, the parent company that I work with, in which you can check out myself and Mr. Fretz on our show, as well as the Kings of the Rings, as well as Young Lions Perspective. So much going on, you guys, and 2020, it is only going to get better before it's going to get worse. I can promise you guys that. So for the lovely Suzie Kennedy, the Glaswegian, I have been Nate well, now I need to get the right spelling, so you'll have to send me the right spelling for that, so that way I don't offend anybody from Glasgow. I've been NateFNGreat, the Wisconsinite. Thank you guys so much. Talk to you next time. Adios.
Bye. Bye-bye.